It's strange how life turns in circles. For 74 years, I believed that love, especially a mother's love, could conquer anything, until the day my son proved me wrong. The story begins on a quiet spring morning in Virginia. My husband, Robert, had just passed away. After 51 years together, the silence of our house felt unbearable. Every photo frame, every empty chair whispered his name. And my son, Daniel, my only child, was the one thing that still kept me breathing. He moved back home after the funeral. He said he wanted to take care of me. I remember smiling through my grief and telling him, that's what family's for. But I should have known, sometimes the people who promise to protect you are the ones holding the knife. At first, Daniel seemed kind. He made breakfast, paid bills, answered phone calls. But slowly, I began to notice changes. He started locking certain drawers. He answered my calls before I could. And every time I tried to talk about finances, about our house, he'd say, "Mom, you don't need to worry about that anymore. Just rest." Weeks passed. Then one morning, I woke up and found all the family photos gone from the walls, even Robert's portrait. "Where's your father's picture, Daniel?" I asked. He looked at me, coldly. "It's time to move on, Mom." That's when I knew something wasn't right. One afternoon, I went to fetch my old jewelry box, a simple wooden thing Robert had given me on our 25th anniversary. It wasn't in my room. When I asked Daniel, he snapped, "Stop being so paranoid. You forget things." Forget things? Me? I may be 74, but I remember every lie that boy told me since he turned 16. Days later, I overheard Daniel on the phone. His voice, hushed, urgent. "She's old. Yeah, the house is in her name. Once it's done, we'll move everything out before she knows." My heart froze. He wasn't taking care of me. He was planning to take everything from me. I wanted to confront him right then, but something inside told me, wait, watch, listen. I hid my wedding ring in a crack in the basement wall just in case. It was the only thing Daniel hadn't noticed yet. That ring meant more than gold. It meant proof. A week later, Daniel said he was renovating the upstairs rooms. He asked me to stay in the basement for safety. I trusted him. I should have known better. The door shut. The lock clicked, and silence filled the air, thick, like betrayal itself. "Daniel!" I called out. No answer. I pushed the door. Nothing. He had locked me in my own house. That night, I slept on the cold floor, listening to the sound of footsteps above me. I could hear him moving furniture, laughing, talking to someone on the phone. Then I heard her voice, his girlfriend. "She'll be fine for a while. Once we sell it, we'll tell people she moved to Florida." Sell it. My house. My life. That's when I realized Daniel had already found a buyer. He was selling the only home Robert and I built with our hands. But Daniel forgot one thing, something he could never sell, something still in my name. The hidden deed, the real one, locked in a safe he didn't even know existed. And now, from this basement, I had to find a way to make him pay for what he'd done. Because a mother's love can forgive many things, but a mother's pain? That becomes her weapon. To be continued.
The first 2 days in that basement were the longest of my life. No windows, no clock. Just the faint hum of the refrigerator upstairs and the sound of betrayal echoing through the floorboards. I didn't cry. Not once. Because deep down, I knew crying wouldn't open that door. Instead, I started listening. Every step, every whisper, every sound that came from above me. Daniel would come down once a day, slide a tray of food through the crack, and pretend everything was fine. He'd say, "It's just for a little while, Mom. The upstairs is under construction." But I could smell the truth on him. The faint scent of fresh paint, real estate perfume. They were getting the house ready for buyers. My blood ran cold. He was selling my life like it was an old piece of furniture. That night, I found my old strength again, the kind I thought I lost when Robert died. I started searching the basement inch by inch. There had to be a way out. Behind a rusted shelf, I found it, an old ventilation grate. Small, but loose enough to move. And in that same moment, I remembered the little safe Robert and I hid down here, behind the furnace. With shaking hands, I pulled the safe out from the dust. Inside, the documents Daniel didn't know existed. Our original house deed, Robert's life insurance papers, and a notarized letter naming me as the sole surviving owner. Daniel thought he owned my house, but legally, I still owned his future. The next morning, when Daniel came to check on me, I pretended to be weak. I coughed, trembled, spoke softly. "Daniel, I need water, please." He smirked. I could hear it in his voice. "It's just for a little while, Mom. The upstairs is under construction." When the door shut, I whispered, "Just a few more days, yes, but for you." Over the next few days, I worked carefully, used the metal handle of a mop to loosen the vent screws, tucked the deed and documents into a plastic bag, wrapped tight. When the night came, I pushed my small hand through the vent. The cool air hit my face. Freedom, almost close enough to touch. But I wasn't escaping just yet. No, I needed proof of what Daniel had done. The next day, I heard him arguing on the phone with his girlfriend, Sarah. "No, we can't wait any longer. The buyer's coming Friday. I'll tell people Mom's moved out of state." Friday. That gave me 2 days. That night, I took the only tool I had, an old radio. It still had a weak signal. I turned the dial slowly, searching for a voice, a station, something. And then, faintly, a channel crackled to life. A talk show, local. Loud enough that if I tapped the mic, someone might hear static on their end. It wasn't much, but it gave me an idea. When Daniel came down the next morning, I smiled. I hadn't smiled in days. "You were right, sweetheart," I said softly. "I've been paranoid. I want to rest. Just bring me my wedding ring from the dresser, will you?" He hesitated, but nodded. That ring was still hidden in the basement wall. I needed him to open the door. When he stepped inside, I moved fast. I slammed the metal tray against the door. He shouted, stumbled, and that's when I screamed, "Help! He's keeping me here!" My voice echoed through the vent, through the radio static, and for the first time, I heard something faint, something real, the sound of a neighbor's dog barking back. Someone heard me. Daniel panicked. He grabbed my arm and hissed, "If you ever do that again, I'll make sure no one finds you." He left, slamming the door behind him. But it was too late. The neighborhood had already heard something strange. That night, as I sat in the dark, I whispered to Robert's memory, "I've found our way out, love. Tomorrow, I'll finish this." Because Daniel forgot one thing. His mother didn't just survive wars, loss, and death. She survived life. And now, she was about to fight for hers again. To be continued.
Morning light never reached that basement, but I didn't need the sun anymore. I had something brighter now. Hope. The next day began quietly. I could hear Daniel moving upstairs, Pacing, whispering, nervous. Maybe he'd noticed the dog barking. Maybe the neighbors had heard me last night. Then I heard the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. A woman's voice. Not his girlfriend. Older, sharper. "Daniel, this is Mrs. Henderson next door. Is everything all right? We heard shouting." I froze, holding my breath against the cold cement. Daniel's voice. Calm. Fake. "Oh, that! Just the TV, Mrs. Henderson. You know how loud Mom gets watching her dramas." The lie cut through me. That's what I had become to him. A story no one would believe. When the doors shut again, I started thinking, if I couldn't make people believe me, then I'd make them see me. And for that, I had to use the one thing Daniel hadn't touched yet, the old security camera. Robert had installed it years ago, back when he was worried about break-ins. Daniel thought it was broken. He never even bothered to remove it. But I remembered something. It still connected wirelessly to the power outlet behind the furnace. I crawled to it, dust choking my throat, and felt for the switch. When the red light blinked once, I almost cried. It worked. Now I had eyes, and if I had eyes, I had evidence. That night, Daniel came down again. He didn't know the camera was recording every second. "Daniel, how much longer?" I asked. He sighed, irritated. "Until Friday, Mom. After that, you'll get a nice new room, somewhere quiet." Somewhere quiet. That meant he was sending me away, or worse. The next morning, I heard him leave for a meeting. The house fell silent. I crawled to the vent and whispered through it, softly, carefully. "Mrs. Henderson, if you can hear me, please, call the police." No answer. But I kept whispering anyway. Because faith isn't about knowing someone's listening. It's believing they will. That evening, rain began to fall. Thunder rolled across the Virginia hills, and I could hear Daniel's truck pulling back into the driveway. He was early. "I told you not to leave the light on," he shouted as he stomped downstairs. I froze. The camera's red light flickered once before going dark. Had he seen it? But no. He was too angry to notice. He grabbed my arm, shaking me. "Stop making noise. You'll ruin everything." I looked straight into his eyes. "You already did that, Daniel." He shoved me away and stormed out. But before he did, he kicked the vent, leaving a small crack of light in the wall. He didn't realize he'd just given me my way out. That night, while the rain drowned every sound outside, I worked on the vent. Bit by bit, screw by screw, until the metal came loose. I could smell the wet air. Freedom, inches away. I crawled through, clutching the bag of documents tight against my chest. When I emerged in the laundry room, I collapsed on the floor, gasping, shaking, praying. "Robert, I did it." I found the old house phone. It had no dial tone. Daniel must have cut the line. But the camera feed... Yes, if I could just send that footage. I connected the USB cable to the camera's old drive, whispering, "Please, work." It blinked once, transferring, slowly. Every image, every second of what Daniel had done to me was now evidence. Then Headlights flashed through the window. He was back. I hid behind the dryer, clutching the bag of documents. Daniel walked in, soaked, angry. "Mom?" he called. Silence. He stepped closer. My heart pounded, and then a voice outside shouted, "Daniel Myers, this is the police. Step away from the house." The camera upload had worked. The system had auto-sent the footage to the local security server, the same one Robert had set up years ago. The police had seen everything. Daniel froze, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. He ran toward the back door, but I stepped out of the shadows, weak but steady, blocking his way. "You locked me away, Daniel. Now it's your turn to face the truth." The lights of the police cars flashed to the windows, red and blue against the rain. When they took him away, he wouldn't look at me. He didn't have to. Because I wasn't his victim anymore. I was his lesson. When the officers led him away, Mrs. Henderson walked over, tears in her eyes. "Oh, honey, we thought you'd moved away." I smiled, voice trembling. I almost did, but someone still had a home to protect. That night, I sat alone in my living room, the same room Robert and I built from love, now safe again. I placed my wedding ring on the table and whispered, "We're home, love. Justice came home, too." And for the first time in years, I slept without fear.